session. So if anyone has any questions for the speakers, for Brian or for Laura, or for any of the Irish Medtech Skillnet team, please feel free to pop your questions into the Q&A box, and we'll get to them during the session or at the end of the session. So with that, just again to let you know, this session is being recorded, so we will be circulating the recording after the session with everyone who's registered. And if anyone has any issues with sound or with connecting, feel free to contact me directly. My email address is mary.kane@ibec.ie. And with that, I'll hand it over to Anne, who's going to introduce the session.
Thanks very much, Mary. First of all, can I ask everyone that isn't presenting to switch off their cameras, because this is being recorded, so we just prefer that the speakers have their cameras on for the session. So that would be great if you can do that. And secondly, then, as I say, we can put with any questions throughout the session, we will then put that to Brian and to Laura. So as part of the Irish Medtech Skillnet, it's a great opportunity to be able to deliver these webinars. We had one prior to Christmas, and then now we have one starting out the new year. So it's a really good time to be able to do that. And we're delighted to be able to invite Brian back again to the session. So Brian Pennie, who has really delivered these type of impactful sessions for us last year, the year before, and today again. I have no doubt that both himself and Laura Dowling, the Fabulous Pharmacist, will deliver a great session for everybody, and we really want people to be able to get benefit out of these sessions. So I'm not going to spend any more time speaking, and I'm going to hand it over to yourself, Brian and Laura. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Anne. Thanks, Mary. And thanks, guys, for joining today. And it's great to see so many numbers on the call. I'm super excited today. I'm looking to learn off Laura as well. I always have a great conversation full of energy when myself and Laura get together. So thanks for joining us today, Laura.
Oh, most welcome. Thanks a million. As I said earlier, Brian, I can never say no to you.
Brilliant. I'm absolutely delighted to have you here, Laura. But Laura, the first thing I want to get into to really set the scene, like you've had some incredible success over the last couple of years, specifically, like even last year, nominated for EY Entrepreneur of the Year for your business, the Fabulous Pharmacy, Fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah, so, well, I suppose my alias is Fabulous Pharmacist and my brand is Fabu. So yeah, but you can call me whatever you want.
Fabu. That's it, Fabio. That's it. But even your podcast, Laura, is absolutely flying it. And your Instagram account, you've gone from like 30,000 to over nearly 400,000 over the space of the last couple of years. So just incredible success. And with that, I would imagine comes massive busyness in terms of business. And not to mention, I see you're in the gym, you're looking after your well-being as well. So that's a whole other element with 3 boys as well. Like you are juggling a lot of balls in the air and you seem to be doing a phenomenal job. But I'm sure challenges come with that as well. So can you give me a little bit more depth into insight to set the context for today in terms of helping people to navigate these challenges?
Yeah, and you mentioned busyness, and when you were repeating back my life to me, I was like, Jesus, yeah, that is busy. And I suppose it's really important that for context, people understand that, you know, when people are posting on Instagram, we're posting the highlights of our lives as well. You know, I'm not really going, I'm so exhausted and I've just had a fight with my husband. And, you know, that's really important that people understand that too. But just in terms of the busyness, yeah, life can kind of get in very, very busy, very, very quickly. And I think that it's really important to understand that as humans, we can only do so much. Our brains only have capacity for so much. And we need to understand when to pull back. But you mentioned the gym there, and I think it's really important that I actually tell people I go to the gym for my mental health. I go to the gym because if I don't feel great about myself. Now I was diagnosed with ADHD there recently, in the last number of years, and I now realise that because I've always loved working out, there's different aspects of it, but it's because it gives me my dopamine, and obviously that's how I, mind myself both physically and mentally. So I will always try and prioritise working out, regardless of how busy I am. You know, even to the point that I would. You know, I prefer going to the gym and say, go out and having a glass of wine, although I do like having a glass of wine. So I think that that's what I do for myself, and that's what exercise gives to me. And I know that you're kind of very similar to that.
Yeah, and I love that, Laura. I was going to ask you about the ADHD diagnosis as well, because when I had you on the podcast, I asked about this. Like, is it nearly a superpower for you because it helps you to get so much done? But as we know, with ADHD as well, you can sort of leave things and not do things. Like, so it can be beneficial and very challenging in the same at the same time, especially with the busyness of modern life. Like, I don't think we even need to talk about the busyness of modern life. It's just a given. So what what are the challenges you've found in terms of ADHD, and has it helped you in some ways as well?
So it's definitely helped me because I can have 1,000 thoughts in my head at the one time and be thinking of a lot of different things. However, it does have its drawbacks, and I'll just give you a typical example because I was talking to my sister on the way up here when is there feedback of somebody eating there? Because it's not me, just to let you know.
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay, grant, grant. So yeah, so basically, like even yesterday in the office, say I stopped everyone from doing the job that they were doing. And I said, okay, guys, we have to do this task now. We've two things to do, so let's get through them. So it was basically like a shot list for I love my vulva show, love your vulva show, the end of this month, and then some other thing. And I stopped everyone doing what they were doing, and we were kind of going through the shot list that I wanted, and then I literally just went, kind of everyone was chatting about it. And I went off and started doing something else. I just said, oh yeah, no, I have to do this. And my sister goes, Laura, like you actually just like everyone's mid conversation and you just started doing something else. And you know, she had visibility of that because she can see that happen to me in real time, but I don't even realize that that's happening. So that my attention can be diverted from having a really serious conversation with my team, and then I'm almost like acting like as if they're not there and we're not midway through a conversation and I'm on to something else. So in that way it can be challenging, and you know, and I'm sure it's difficult for people that maybe don't understand the way I work. If they are in that situation with me, they're like, what's she gone? You know, where's she gone? Is what I'm saying not relevant? Or so I need to constantly check myself for that, or have people in my you know era or around me that can say, Laura, actually we need to like kind of drag you back here and make sure that you finish what you do, because I'm great at starting things and coming up with really good ideas, but following through on them probably not so great. And then that's where kind of I suppose the guilt cycle comes in. So I used to, before I was diagnosed and I really understood my own brain, I used to have a list of like say 15 things to do in a day. Now they would all be in my head, or maybe I'd write some of them down, but I'd have a rough idea that I'd have like, a certain amount of things I'd do in a day. And I might only complete 3 of them. And I'd end up going to bed feeling guilty that I hadn't done everything that I promised people I'd do or promised myself I'd do. And I was in this constant cycle of over saying what I do and then not being able to do it and then feeling guilty as a result of it. And that was a cycle of that. So although ADHD, it is a superpower in many ways. And I think that it has allowed me to get a lot of things done and come up with loads of ideas and challenge the status quo in many ways. And maybe even like it gives you a little, I think you're kind of not risk adverse when you have ADHD in some ways. You're kind of like, you're able to take risks. You kind of get off on it. It kind of excites you. So even like starting social media in the dispensary many years ago, like maybe some other pharmacists would have actually asked their boss, could they do it? Whereas I was like, oh, I'll just do it, and deal with the consequences. So that's kind of where I would say the pros and the cons are.
Yeah. Do you know something that really jumped out at me there as well, though, Laura? It's like the guilt that you had, like it's perfectionism. Like you didn't do exactly what you said you were going to do. It's people pleasing. You told someone you're going to do it and you're not going to do it. And I think I can really relate to that as well. And something I noticed, I haven't been diagnosed with ADHD, but I'd say I'm borderline in some scenarios. I've studied the link between addiction and ADHD, and there's lots of different symptomologies there as well. But I will often I'll be working on my laptop and I have to check something on my phone. Maybe it's Instagram or LinkedIn, and I have to go to my phone. And all of a sudden I'll be on WhatsApp, I'll be on something else. And all of a sudden I'm just doing other things. And I've often noticed as well, my stepdaughter has pulled me up on it recently where she'll be talking to me about something and she says, Brian, you're drifting. She actually has a language for it now. She says, Brian, lock in, you're drifting. Listen to me. She's 11 years of age and she's pulling me back.
That's
And then
gas.
I can feel the guilt of that as well. But I want to pull it back. There's something that you said there as well, like specifically for yourself. I would imagine that this is quite important in terms of call it ADHD or just the busyness of the modern world as well. Like we need to have a signpost of where we're going. Do you set intentions and expectations for the year? Is that something that you specifically set for the year? And what are the challenges around that, I suppose?
Do you know what? I'll be really honest with you. So I do run a business, and maybe prior to running the business, there were no setting of expectations other than, get through the year, be a good mum, work, love,
Yeah.
have fun
Values
and
driven stuff nearly.
all of that. Yeah. So and now that I have a business, I would love to be able to tell you what my strategy is for the year, right? But I'll be really honest with you, I don't know what my strategy is for the next 5 minutes. As in, I have for the last 3 years, I suppose, because my business is kind of very much content and social media driven. I've sat down with my team on numerous occasions going, let's get a content calendar populated and filled in and do it. And we come up with this amazing idea and all these brainstorming ideas, and we'll do this and we'll do that, and we'll do this funny sketch and this funny sketch. And we might then populate the calendar for the next 3 days, and then we don't continue it. And that's because it's not my team's fault, it's my fault for not following up on it, because then my brain is distracted to do something else. So this year, I've really set the intention that I need to nail this and stop talking about it. So I need to give my team the support. So not just say, I want to do this and expect them to understand what's going on in my busy head, to sit down with each of them, to talk to them, to ask them what they feel the challenges are and to go forward with that. But I think sometimes we can set expectations for ourselves and they're not realistic. And then we get into that guilt cycle. Like the usual one for the new year is I'm going to join the gym, I'm going to lose a couple of stone, I'm going to stop eating crap, I'm going to give up alcohol. And generally, that can work for a few weeks, but then real life creeps in and you have the glass of wine and the whole cycle starts again. So I think it's really important that we actually are very kind to ourselves as well and understand that we're only human and that we only have a certain amount of capacity. And with all the shite, excuse me for cursing, but that's going on in the world at the minute, we need to actually understand that our lives and our families' lives and the people that we touch every single day are really how we show love and importance and gratitude to ourselves and to others. Because sometimes, and I would find this, you can open up your phone and you can see children dying, and you can see that some government of some countries invaded another country, and you can see that grok is going on, and you can go, what in the name? If there's desperation in the world. And I think that it's really important that we mind ourselves. So in doing that, the setting of the expectations, them not being too high, those expectations, them being realistic, and you may be understanding that other people don't, and even like your family, your partner, your children, they don't know what's going on in your head. You need to sit down and communicate with people rather than expecting people to know.
Yeah, I think that transparency is really key as well. But it's something that I can really resonate there with Laura. Like life just doesn't go to plan. You have to have a plan. I think this is the interesting thing. You have to, as Stephen Covey says, you have to start with an end goal in mind. But it's only a signpost, and there's going to be different different paths on the way. Like even yourself, we were chatting before line. Like you had a great plan for this week. You were lots of things going on, and all of a sudden your dad's it was your dad's best friend passed, did he?
Yeah, my dad's best friend passed away. So today I'm up here in the north. My sister traveled up early this morning to go to the funeral. I had to find a hotel that had good Wi-Fi so I could still do this call that I had, agreed to do and wanted to do, absolutely. But my whole day now has been knocked out of sync. Meetings that I was supposed to have today and even last night have had to been pushed into later on in the week, if not next week. I have a show coming up. There's so much going on. I think you need to allow for the fact that life will throw speed bumps in the way, and it's how you deal with them. That's really important. And that's where the resilience comes in and the kindness to yourself comes in. And actually being able to say, do you know what? I actually can't cope with all this. I need some help. Or I'm not going to be able to do this, or, pulling back on certain things. I think that's really important.
Yeah. Do you have any personal systems or strategies or tools, let's say, that guide the actions for where you want to go?
So do you mean this on the long-term actions or the short-term day-to-day?
Even
Yeah.
either or, Laura, yeah.
So I do like writing lists and ticking them off. That gives me great satisfaction. And I've now since moved over to this online thing called Trello that we use for work, that you can actually put lists in, and you can have your Monday to Friday, and then you can have like long-term lists and short-term lists. And I've started to populate that, and I love it because I actually get deep satisfaction out of writing something down and then ticking it off as it's done, to the point that even if, just say, I'll have forgotten to write a list and it's lunchtime on a Tuesday, I'll write down the things that I did do and I'll tick them off because at least I've stuff that
That's
I've
a real
ticked off.
dopamine thing, though. I get that. I can so relate to that. It's crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then in terms of long term goals, I tend to kind of keep in my head. And you know what, as well, I'm very much about, like, of course, like, look, I have a business that I'm running. I would love to establish myself well in the UK with my business. Okay, so that would be my biggest long-term goal that I have. And then from a personal point of view, I have three teenage boys. I want them to grow up to be great men, and I want to be there for them as a mom. I want to be there as a partner to my husband, and there for my family, my wider family as well. So they would be the goals that I would have. But I also think that we need to kind of live in the moment too, because you never know what's around the corner. And, like, me being up for my dad's best friend's funeral is a case in point. Although he was an older man, anything can happen, any one of us. And I think life is about living it and enjoying it in the moment as well, because we can get so caught up with, oh my goodness, when I pay the mortgage, when by the time my mortgage is paid off, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. By the time I'm retired, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. But you don't know what's down the line. You don't know what kind of sickness is going to come upon you or your family. You don't know what kind of situation we might be in this time next year. So I do think, without throwing caution to the wind, that we need to actually really kind of take stock of, yes, I have these long-term plans and this is where I'd like to be, but actually I need to enjoy the journey, because we all know that you might have a plan and you might get to that plan, say if it's a business thing or it's a money thing, and you get to it and you're like, oh, actually, now that I'm here, it doesn't feel as good as the journey felt. So I want to do this now.
Yeah.
So you can
What's that
always be
about?
trying to achieve, always, like, if you told me 3.5 years ago that my business would be where it is today, I wouldn't have believed you. And I would have thought, that is amazing. Oh my goodness, I don't want anything else. But now that I'm here, I'm like, well, actually, I do. I want the UK now. So, and I'm just being really frank with you. We need to actually understand how lucky we have it as well. And that, be grateful for what you have and not always be, I want that, I want that, I want that.
Oh, yeah, it's so true, Laura. And I don't know whether it's a cliche or not, but it's a great line. But it's not about the life is a journey, not a destination. And if you're not enjoying the journey, you're never actually going to reach the destination, because there is no destination. It nearly brings me back to a saying that from the drugs world is like chasing the dragon. The dragon is make believe, it doesn't exist. So you're chasing something that actually doesn't exist. So your whole life is you're up in your head, you're thinking about a future that's going to bring you a happiness that actually doesn't exist. I think that's absolutely critical. There was something you said there that I think is really key as well. I've said it a few times, Laura. It's just in your head. You just do this, you just do that. And it strikes me that I sort of implement certain things. Like, I pick themes for the year. I've been off actually for the last 4 weeks. I've actually really strictly taken a couple of weeks off. I was back a couple of days this week before a ski holiday next week, and I've had a lot of time to slow down. I was out hiking. I was doing Reiki. I was doing lots of different wellness things, float tanks. Meditation. I've gotten back into a meditation routine, which I haven't had in a couple of years. Still going to the gym, and everything is just really slowed down for me, and it's really given me time to reflect and think, which is the opposite of that busyness of life. But what I find is with myself is, when I really practice something over time, it's like an internalized practice. Like, I was telling you about the breakfast I had this morning, and I was about to eat it. I was dying for it. I hit the plate and it went all over me t-shirt. Like, it was crazy. But I've practiced non-reactivity for years, and I smiled, and it was an initial, but then I just smiled and let it go. And I was playing with the dog. The dog asked some of the, some of the food. I was looking for the wins. But it was an internal practice that I've internalized over time. And I think that's something that people struggle with. Like, you can try to make certain habits stick, but you're not going to, like, remember them in the moment, like when the busyness of life is getting out of sorts, or your whole week is thrown out of sync because someone close to you has passed away, or whatever that is. But you've gone back to kindness, you've gone back to self-compassion. It sounds like you've internalized certain practices in your life. Is How do you remember to go to that in the moment? Is that something that you've
I
internalized? Is it just a go-to?
I think I'm old. I think I'm 45. I'm heading for 46. As I said, I have three kids.
Wise,
I've
Laura,
lived a
wise.
bit. I'm a bit wiser than I was 20 years ago. And like, for instance, and I think it's also like it's what's ingrained in you. Like that book, Atomic Habits. So I only read it there a couple of months ago, actually, because I was trying to do you know what it was? I used to love yoga and it used to give me a real sense of satisfaction doing it, but it isn't intense exercise. So I always felt, look, if I choose between yoga and doing weights is going to actually benefit me more because I want strong bones and muscles when I'm older. But
Yeah.
I did find that I was missing the yoga, but I just didn't have the time to implement it because, like, you need an hour and a half to do yoga, whereas you can do weights in half an hour, right? So it was the time in the day that I didn't have. So I read that book deliberately because I wanted to kind of try and put in place those atomic habits, just literally little small habits. And actually, it was my son that was reading it. And he got me into it, and he's 17, so he's probably a bit wiser than me sometimes. But anyway, what it did encourage me to do was like not want to do an hour and a half yoga session, just actually standing on the mat and doing a couple of sun salutations. Then you're doing yoga. And then if you do that every day, or if you do that 3 times a week, you're a person that does yoga 3 times a week, and then gradually build that up. So, and I think it's like with the exercise, I always exercise. I exercise because I love to do it, but I will also do it in times where actually, Jesus, I probably might be better off just sitting. I want to sit on the couch and watch TV, but I know the feeling that I'll have after I exercise. So, for instance, the other day, I actually went to the gym and I didn't realize until the time I'd only packed my top. So I was wearing my jeans. I was in the changing room, ready to put on my leggings, and I didn't have my leggings. So I went upstairs and did a workout in my jeans. And like, squatting in jeans is it just hits different, right? But I still did it because I was like, feck it, I'm here. So I might as well do
Yeah,
something. And even
fair
if that's
play to
only
you.
10 minutes, I'll still feel better about myself. So those atomic
Yeah.
habits, instilling them into your life is really important. The kindness, you can instill atomic habits of kindness to yourself as well. Just go on. I'm actually like, what are the things that I bring to the table in my personal life, in my public life, or in my work life? And if you do that every day, so it's not about the hour and a half session, it's about the 5 minute session. That means then that maybe tomorrow it's 6 minutes, or maybe the next day it's 10 minutes. So, and that's really, really important.
Oh, that's it. I think you've really nailed, Laura, one of the most important things around habit change. And for anyone that wants to change habits, that book, James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, is absolutely brilliant. And I'm big on exercise, and I'm exactly like you. Like my physio kept on saying to me, you've got to do flexibility training, you've got to do mobility training. And it wasn't good for her business because I was going back because I wasn't doing that. I was just getting these injuries all the time. So I started yoga, but it was another hour a week and it just wasn't fitting into the schedule. And I says, right, I need to start doing mobility training. But it got to the stage I was doing stretching before Christmas, and all of a sudden it started to stick with me. I was getting sort of the stretching in the morning, but then their little puppy, she's a year and a half old. She was coming over, and it's like she sees me sitting on the ground in the sitting room. She's like, "Oh, it's playtime," so she comes over. So I nearly use her as a lever for like stretching exercises and stuff as well. But I've started to do mobility exercise as well, and I either do it in the evening or the morning if I have it. But my problem was, and I found it's this perfectionism thing again. It was a 20-minute set that I wanted to do. But between the dog, between time, between other things that are going on, I wasn't getting that. And this is something I've really had to practice. I says, right, if I only get 10 minutes in, I get 10 minutes in. But once I do that, I let go of the perfectionism thing quite quickly then once I do it. But then I feel, no, you've gotten your mobility session in, but the habit sticks over time. Whereas if I'm trying to get that exact perfect 20 minutes in all the time and I don't do it for 2, 3, 4 days in a row, that will probably drop off completely. And I think James Clear in Atomic Habits, they say like there's a couple of ideas in that book, but I think it's the biggest predictor of successful habit change is jumping back in. Don't miss a day, miss a week if you're sick, but jump back in as soon as you can. And I think what we do with habits specifically is we try to have these perfectionist style routines, whether it's exercise, reading a new book, writing, business stuff, creating goals, reviews. We try to perfect it, but just get it done. I think that's the key, is just getting it done.
Yeah, and I know there's probably people on this call, we're talking about exercising and working out, and they might be, I don't like exercising or working out. But, you
Yeah.
know, that could be a walk, it could be a brisk walk. Do something that actually you feel that gives you joy, that that lifts your soul. So it doesn't have to be a 5K run or lifting weights. It can be a brisk walk. It can be getting out in nature. It can be just, you know, looking at the sky. It's just really important that you connect those dots, as opposed to thinking, you know, there's some prescription for me. It's about getting out and doing it, like you said, and not actually overcomplicating it by thinking, if I don't do, you know, a 20-minute session, then it's not worth doing. A 5-minute session, if you put on your runners and go for a walk for 5 minutes, you're a walker. You're a, you know, if you go for a run for 5 minutes, you're a runner. And then that slowly builds up in time, and it gets into your brain. It definitely, something changes in your brain, and you see yourself differently.
Yeah, I totally agree, Laura. And nearly thinking about some people like that are struggling physically as well and can't get out and exercise. Like even getting out and sitting in the garden and just spending time in nature and stuff like that as well. Like one of the big things, there's two big themes in my life this year. And it was again, we were the last session we done was around a review of the year and stuff like that. And a big thing that I knew was a big thing for me, and has been for the last few years, is busyness. But because of the busyness, the rushing around, I'm not as connected with the loved ones in my life. And I'm saying yes to things. I'm saying yes to some 7 out of 10 business opportunity when I'm really saying no to spending time with my nephews or my partner on something else. So it's saying no, stepping back, and really giving myself time for other people. But what I noticed as well was that I was losing focus. My attention isn't what it was. I was only talking to my partner, saying if I had to write my book again or do my PhD thesis again, I don't think I'm in the place 5 years ago where I was to where I am now. I don't think I could do it. It's like I've lost focus. And it's between the business of life, it's between the phones. Like that is really, really a struggle. How do you navigate phone use specifically? Because like a lot of your business, like my own, is around Instagram. It's around the phones, and it's a big part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, and you know, you can't be on your phone and telling your kids not to be on theirs either. You know, I find, because they'll be like, well, mum, you're on yours. And I'm like, well, I'm working. But, you know, it doesn't matter whether I'm working or not. I'm still tuned out of the conversation, or I'm still half listening to them, or saying, yeah. What made a massive difference to our business, and we implemented it there about 6 months ago, is we went from remote working to in-office working. So if you think about it, we had a business, it was a small business, we didn't know which way it was going. And we had a team of say 6 people, and we were all working remotely. And we might meet up maybe once every week or once every 2 weeks to get a little bit of content shot. But apart from that, it was Zoom meetings, and it was everyone working from home. So when I'm working from home, I probably didn't feel the need to get dressed up or, you know, put on decent clothes. And I'd be sitting there and I'd be tipping away at work maybe. But then, you know, the kitchen is looking a bit messy because the kids didn't put their bowls away after they had their breakfast. So I get up and do that, and that's distracting me. And I'm sure a lot of people are the same, whether or not you've ADHD. Being at home, I found, was just kind of distracting. And I also found it was really hard to know what my team were doing, because, you know, you give them a job, and then they may or may not do it to the way the standards that you expect. And then also we had one young girl working for us, and she was working away at home, and we all thought that she was happy working away at home, but she was afraid to tell us that she didn't understand the jobs that we were giving her. And as a result, she kind of wasn't very happy because we weren't meeting enough to get those kind of conversations. Because I think it's hard to be vulnerable in yourself, maybe on a Zoom meeting, you know? So we started working 2 days a week in the office. Literally within about 3 weeks, we started working 3 days a week, and now we're 4 days a week, with Wednesday being remote. Because Wednesday, you know, we figure, look, we can have a day off during the week where everyone can kind of regroup, regather, we can get any kind of admin done, and then back into the office. So I found that being in the office is a really good way for me to go, I'm in the office, whatever it is, 9 till 6, 9 till 7. And when I go home, I have to remind myself that I've done my work for the day. And I have to put my phone away, and I have to engage with my children, and I have to go to bed early, because if I get a good night's sleep, I can wake up the next day and go to the gym before work, and the whole cycle can start again. I think that if you work from home, it can be really difficult challenge to actually stop working. Like I think I felt I was on call all the time. I felt I had to be on, you know, because my working, it's a weird feeling. My house environment was also my work environment. So, and then even I found that, say, we weren't, myself and my husband weren't really enjoying eating our meals at home at dinner time, because our home was our work. You know, my husband was in the office upstairs. So when we moved into the office, we're both much happier now, because we can get our work done in the office, and home is home, and it isn't work. You know, there isn't as much work related stuff to be done.
Yeah, that's, and I think that's really key, and it nearly goes back to many of the messages, Laura, in James Clear's book Atomic Habits. Like the environment, when you're looking at behavioral change or habit change, like the environment is so powerful. It really, really is. And this is something again that came up in my review of the year. Like since we moved into a new house in Kill, we love where we live down in Kill and Kildare now the last 2 years. But I think it's part of the lack of focus that I have. Like I go down to a coffee shop in the area to work, because once I'm at home, if there's anyone around, it just doesn't work. And the puppy we have as well obviously isn't great for that as well. So the environment just really sets the stage. But I think it sets your identity as well. But there was something in the questions there, Laura, as well, and I'd love to ask you. So somebody was wondering for yourself, what strategies and medication, I wonder if that's medication or meditation, do you take? It's probably medication to manage your ADHD. But I thought that said meditation. But something I wanted to touch back on with this lack of focus on phones, because I've noticed this with myself, and it really taps into habit change as well. One of the most important things, if you want to change habits in your life, is really around, like, if you're going to go against the grain and you're going to say, I'm going to do 10 miles a day or 10 kilometers a day, running every single day, and you hate running, you're probably going to get to Tuesday and that habit's going to disappear. It's just not going to stick. So I wanted to get some kind of a meditation back in my life. I do breath work because I find meditation quite aversive, to be quite honest. Not aversive, but I don't enjoy it. But I've started a meditation practice that is in it with a candle. I got my partner to get me a beeswax candle. And for 3 minutes every evening, I just go up and do a little candle meditation. And it's something that I'm starting to enjoy. And because I'm enjoying it, it's starting to stick. So I think that's something really important on the habit change stuff as well. But on that question, Laura, like, so someone's asked, they love your page and wondered what strategies or medication do you take to manage your ADHD? Now, I think this could be very specific to different diagnoses, so I don't know whether you can actually give an
Yeah,
answer on that. Can you?
I don't actually take medication. It didn't suit me.
Okay.
I just didn't like it. It kept me awake at night and stuff. So I didn't last very long on it. But the strategies was understanding that my brain is my brain and always has been. Because I remember when I got my diagnosis, I turned around to my husband and said, "Are you sorry you married me now? Because I have this thing wrong with me." Like, I saw it as a thing that was wrong with me. He was like, "Are you joking me? Sure, I knew you were half mad." When I started going out with you, and I love it. But, like, you know,
Yeah.
it was, you know, he knows my brain. It's just we now understand why the utility room is always messy, and why I come home from holidays and leave my suitcase there for 3 weeks before I unpack it. Like that, he understands that now. So we're much more understanding of each other. But and in terms of so now that I understand my brain, I also understand that I do like organization, and that if I do come home from a holiday, or even even if I'm over in London for a couple of days, and leave that suitcase there, and constantly walk over that suitcase every time I go to the bathroom that's on the landing, and go to myself, I
Yeah.
must unpack that suitcase. That's actually taking time out of my life. It's busying up my brain. So if I just
Yeah.
go and
Brother.
do it, it's done.
Yeah.
So it's not taking up space in my brain. And there's a lady there that has just written in, have you any tips for meditating with ADHD? And this is really important. So I cannot sit still and meditate. If you bring me to a sound bath, I'm like, looking around me, eyes darting. If you bring me to, like, even the breath work and stuff. So I actually, what the yoga that I practice is Ashtanga yoga, which is a movement yoga, and it's very powerful. So the way I find, and why I love yoga so much, is because I'm meditating while I'm doing the moves, because it's such a powerful, there's such powerful moves that all you can do is think about the moves, because it's like the same moves every single time. It's like a primary series, Ashtanga, and you do the same moves every time, and you have to breathe.
Sorry, I think we lost Laura there. I'm sure she
Um,
will. Oh, you're
oh,
there, Laura.
sorry,
Sorry, we lost you for a sec.
did
Oh,
I
no, you're
jump
good.
off
You're
there?
good.
So yeah, so the
Yeah, just
movement
for
of the
about three
yoga is
seconds. It's
what
all
it.
good.
Okay, so it's the movement of the yoga that actually helps you to meditate. So that's why I find like sometimes I'll come up with my best ideas when I'm doing a yoga session, because I'm really fully able to just be in my own head and just like, you know, let everything go. So that's what I would say. If you have trouble meditating, try Ashtanga yoga, because you can meditate while you're doing it. That's part of it. It's like the meditation is happening while you're breathing, while you're moving.
Yeah, and finding the meditation you enjoy. So if you get something that you enjoy more, hold on to that dearly. And Laura, we've touched a couple of these topics on the question I want to ask next. But in terms of sharp thinking, mindset, and high performance, what's the role of nutrition, exercise, and sleep? Like we talk about exercise, is obviously a big part of what you do. And you haven't talked about sleep. Sleep is huge for me, especially sleep consistency. But nutrition is personally massive for me. And obviously your business is around supplementation and nutrition. So what's the role of that for really sharp thinking and high performance?
I think sleep is the most important thing. And I think that's why
Hey,
it, you know, women, particularly in perimenopause and menopause, when they're going through all those fluctuations of their hormones and find sleep a struggle, they really find life getting difficult. And even on the ADHD thing, just to say something about that too. So a lot of women will get by in life, no problem with ADHD, don't even notice that it's a thing in their lives until they hit perimenopause and their hormones are fluctuating, because there's a direct link between estrogen levels and dopamine levels. So if your estrogen drops, your dopamine drops too. And symptoms, you know, just the way you were before menopause, like it could have been like you had ADHD traits, and then perimenopause just tips you into actually ADHD. So it's important to note that. But I think that in terms of Jesus, I think I went off on a tangent there. What was the question?
no, not at all. So is it in terms of nutrition, sleep, and
Oh yeah,
exercise? What
sorry,
in terms
sleep.
of
So sorry, that's where
mindset,
I wanted to
sharp
go
thinking,
to. So
high
this,
performance?
goodness me, I was just thinking, Jesus, see that there you go now. I went off on a tangent and
An
forgot
example
exactly
in
what I was
real
talking
time.
about. An example in real time of what the hell was going on in my brain. So sleep is hugely important, and that is why I have really tried. And that's with the atomic habits as well. It really helped me to go, okay, look, I need to be in bed by 10 p.m. and put on my podcast. Hopefully, I'm asleep by about 10 past 10, a quarter past 10, and then I sleep to the next day. Because if I go to bed later, it filters into the next day. You're tired, you're sluggish. We need sleep the way a baby needs sleep. Like we really do. It's where all our body is resetting. It's where our brain, you know this, Mr. Neuroscientist, it's where our brain is recovering from the day, and our heart and our lung, everything is so important and so dependent upon sleep. So I think that having a proper, really trying to instill that routine in yourself. So being hard on yourself in terms of sleep. I would have found, the phone is a huge distraction. And there's been even a lady here saying the phone is a huge thing in her life, stopping me from getting things done. But also, I need the phone to contact my family and my son. Any tips on having a healthy relationship with it? I'm sure the end of that is our healthy boundaries. Yeah, like, I mean, I think that you need to just turn off the phone at certain times in the day. So if your son, I don't know what age he is, but if he's in school from 9 to 3, you know that you don't actually need the phone to be
Yeah.
on between 9 and 3, or there are definitely times in the day where you can just switch it off and put it to one side. It's really, really important. At night time, like get off it at 7. Like if you're just doom scrolling, why are you doom scrolling? Would you be better off reading a little book, getting into bed early? The amount of time we waste doom scrolling is significant, I think. So yeah, so having those proper sleep habits, like maybe having the bath before bed, getting your body used to it, having a cup of chamomile tea, maybe taking one of my R&R relaxes. But it is so important. I think sleep is the most important thing, and then everything else follows. Because if you get a good night's sleep, you wake up more energized, you're less inclined to reach for the cookie tin, you'll eat better,
Everything's easier.
you'll be able to work out, everything is easier. So it has this like really positive feedback mechanism with sleep. Whereas if you don't get good sleep, then you're waking up sluggish, you probably can't hit the
Yeah.
gym or do your walk, you're not making good food choices, and it all kind of feeds back.
Yeah, it's a foundation, isn't it? And do you want to come in there? Sorry.
Yeah, I do. I just want to, I suppose, ask Laura and yourself a question. So let's just say there's somebody there now and they're hearing what's going on here today, and it's so good to hear it, and that, talking about atomic habits, and Laura, particularly there, what you were talking about was being diagnosed with ADHD last year. But let's just say someone is kind of starting the year off. They're not too sure where they're at or where to start, and how even to kind of take those steps. Maybe I have ADHD, maybe I have, you know, I need to try to start to build those atomic habits. Where would you advise somebody to kind of take those first initial steps, talking to somebody, whether they're looking at yoga, just even to kind of almost go back a few years and go, okay, I needed to get this sorted, or I needed to look at myself from that perspective, kind of just coming from at it from there, and just where could people start with?
Brian, do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Yeah, you go ahead. You go first, Laura.
I start by writing down 3 things that I really want to get done, that, you know, that I'd really love to do. And, you know, let them be pie in the sky things. Let them be like mega, okay? And then write 3 things down that are realistic. So the mega things could be, you know, 1 or 2 of the most mega things could be a realistic thing for your realistic goal. And then I'd write down the things, maybe 3 things last year that didn't go so well. And I'd start with that, and I'd understand, okay, look, this is what I want. This is what I really want. This is the big goal, but this is actually, you know, what's going to make me happy day to day if I actually get these 3 things done, or one of these 3 things done, because 3 things are actually a big deal. So if there's one out of those 3 things that are really important to you, then you understand that that's your focus, and you can begin to make that first step. And then, as I said, if you've 3 things that didn't go well last year, or that you didn't like last year, it's important to write them down and acknowledge them, so you don't kind of like repeat the behavior and make the same mistake that you made last year. Brian, I don't know, you might have a better answer than me.
Yeah, well, do you know what the thing is? I don't think there is a better answer per se, Laura, because I do think it's different for different people. One thing that I've noticed, and it's something we touched on today, is that internalized behavior is something that I just do. Like non-reactivity is something that I practiced for a long time. And it came really from an ability to observe my own mindset. It's how I changed my own relationship with anxiety. And it was true necessity. It was true deep pain of struggling with anxiety and trauma that sort of forced me into that kind of a practice. But there's other practices today that I've really had to work on. Like exercise was never part of my life, but I started small. And I think that's the key. It's taking baby steps. Like if you want to get some kind of movement or exercise into your life, start with a walk, start with a 2 kilometer run. My partner was trying to get back into exercise about 2 or 3 years ago, and she was going for a run, and she played GA for years, but then she was going for a run on 2 kilometers. She had to stop, and she was nearly getting annoyed with herself. But we've done little incremental steps over time, and the 2 of us are doing Troika together now at the end of the month. She's really at the building that, but it's taken time. So back to what Laura said about self-compassion, but start small. Like for me, I could have easily saying, right, I want to rebuild focus into my life. I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes every day. And I have friends that meditate for an hour a day, or so they say anyway. And whether they do it every day is another thing. I think it's hard to build that power of a practice every single day. But for me, it's 3 minutes every day. And if I miss it, which I missed the last night because we were packing, that's okay. Self-compassion. I'm not going to beat myself up. I'll do it again tonight. I'm not going to do it next week because I'm on holidays, but I'll come back and do it again after that. So I think those baby steps is really key. And another element that starts with that is make it simple and make it easy. Because if you have a very complex exercise routine and it's complicated, it's not easy, it's not simple, that's very aversive. And people often think that they're not motivated, that they're lazy, that it's internal. It's not really. It's how you set up the contingencies of that behavior that is going to determine that. So make it simple. We can all go for a walk. If you're struggling with a walk, my mom does this. She lifts like little weights that she has in the house because when she couldn't walk for a while. So make it very simple, make it very easy, and stack it in with other elements of your life as well. So for me, it's after dinner, I bring the dog for a walk. So after dinner, I bring the dog for a walk. That's just something that I do. I've internalized that practice now, and it's just something that I do. The candle meditation is at 8:45 every single night. I probably need to change that now that I'm talking about that, because I haven't stacked that habit very well. So maybe I'm going to have to stack that with another thing. Maybe I do it just before I go to bed, so it's part of the routine. But it's those baby steps that I think is really, really key when it comes to habit change.
Yeah, and just to note there too, because I know that sometimes a lot of it, like this talk, can seem overwhelming, but for some people maybe because it seems like we have all our shit together. We absolutely don't. Like I mess up every single day, and I say like, oh, I only write 5 things on my list now and make sure they're all ticked off. I still have lists of stuff that aren't ticked off, and then also I think that you know, we're all new year, new me. Like, how about new year, old me, just better moisturized? You know, how about just being nice to yourself? And then also, when it comes to nutrition, we all know how important nutrition is. Like, for instance, on the way up here, we went into a petrol station, and in the petrol station, all there was available to eat were fried foods and sweets. And when I say fried foods, there was 4 aisles of chocolate and sweets, fried foods, not a bit of fruit. So how are we expecting people to make healthy choices for food if they're on the road and they want to grab a quick snack and they're absolutely starving? So as a nation, we need to actually be a little bit more understanding of the quality of food that's in our supermarkets and our shops, and trying to be like, you know, actively campaigning for better. But then also, when it comes to our home and what we bring into our home for food, you know, I know as well as anyone else how hard it is to put a decent dinner on the table that's healthy and nutritious and hits all those macro levels, right? But you can, you know, my sister introduced me to pre-chopped onions. Who knew there's frozen onions sold in Tesco's? So when you come home, when you want to make a stir fry and you don't have time for any of it, and you don't always have fresh onions in the fridge because, you know, they kind of go off and a bit hairy, have the frozen onions in the freezer. Have a little bit of chopped meat from the night before or a little bit of chicken, throw them into the pan, and that could be a stir fry with a little bit of rice. You can make it easy on yourself. It doesn't always have to be a gourmet. A few herbs and spices, and you can have a decent dinner for yourself and your family without having A, spent a fortune, and B, spent an awful lot of time on it. So it's finding those quick fixes and being really easy and compassionate on yourself too, like what Brian was saying.
No, that's brilliant. And I think that's really important for people because, as you say, not everyone has everything together, and everyone is struggling all the time. And and I suppose that whole thing about, like, if you can't do it perfectly, just do it anyway. I think that piece is really important for people to hear. And then just going back, and I've seen it coming up time and time again. And actually, there was someone talking about going cold turkey on one of the questions.
Oh,
And from what I'm hearing is kind of are bringing back in Instagram again. I saw it coming up there, and I just thought, right, it's so easy to get lost in the sort of the dopamine hit of a screen, and then you lose 3 or 4 hours. And I don't think there's anybody that hasn't experienced that at this stage. It's that kind of, are there processes, are there sort of ways of dealing with it that can really help people?
There are actually. I'll tell you now, my son has a timer on. So he has, like, you can go into your settings in your phone and you can allow yourself to only be on Instagram for 10 minutes a day or 10 minutes a week. And so long as you're willing to stick to that, you can do that. So put it on a timer, allow yourself only 10 or 15 minutes. And that means you go in, you have your fix, and then you're done. And it switches it off automatically. It won't let you go into it again. It's almost like those parental settings. So you have to actively, you know, I know people that delete apps like that. I know people that just go cold turkey, but then they kind of feel that they're missing out and stuff. And then I would also say about following people, follow people that give you joy. Follow accounts that are not making you feel bad about yourself. And, you know, people that are being a bit realistic about life as well. That's so important. But yeah, if you put a timer on your apps, start slowly, maybe give yourself 15 minutes a week or something. Pick a day where you're not really busy, so you know you're not going to down a rabbit hole. Pick a Saturday or Sunday where you know you have like time to lie on the couch and enjoy it. But and you know, I do think phones are a huge issue for, you know, ourselves, our children, our babies, and you know, we do have to be very mindful of the fact that we need to get a control on it, and also be really mindful of the fact that you're seeing the best parts of people's lives usually. And nobody is perfect, and no one has it all together, even though they might seem that they do.
No, that's brilliant. And so, Brian, I'm going to hand it back to yourself. I just thought it would be good to bring in a few of those bits.
Can I show you how? Can I show you how untogether I have it? Right before we started here, I'm starving. Before we started here, I ordered my dinner, and it's sitting here, looking at me, waiting to be eaten. So, you know, because I thought, oh, I'll get into the hotel, I'll order my food, I'll eat nicely, but of course I didn't, because I was sat talking to someone after the funeral. I didn't have my timing right. You know, timekeeping is a big problem with me. So, you know, I'm not perfect. I'm the opposite of, and I have a big cold bloody steak waiting for me to eat that I'm not even going to enjoy now because it's cold.
Very relatable. Thanks very much,
Yeah.
Laura.
It's I think that's the overarching thing though as well, Laura, because I think sometimes because when we're even having these conversations and we're talking about the tools and tactics, and I talk about not non-reactivity being an internalized process. Like there's loads of times when you react as well. So I think that self-compassion piece is just so important because life will throw curveballs, things will get in the way. I would actually say I have a good relationship with my phone, but not every single day. There's some days that I just find myself checking the phone more and more. And again, it could be because of a lack of sleep, it could be because of other stressors going on in your life. So I think again and again, it really does come back to that piece. It really comes back to awareness, I think, as well. I don't know whether you have any thoughts on awareness as well, Laura, because for me, like awareness is really layered. Like you can be very aware of your bodily sensations and your internal dialogue when you're doing a yoga class or you're going for a stroll down the river. But how aware are you when you need to have self-compassion, when you're berating yourself for not doing good enough and stuff like that as well? So I think it's an ability to catch the emotional hijackings, to catch these things, to catch yourself in the middle of a doom scroll as well, if that's where you are. And I think that is really key. And it's I think coming to talks like this and sort of spending time thinking about these things definitely helps. But would you have any thoughts on that in terms of building that awareness
Yeah.
muscle?
Yeah, I think it depends on the day, it depends on the time of the month, and it depends on whether or not I've had sleep the night before. Everything seems miserable. Like there have been days where I've lain in bed and I'm so tired. I'm going, oh my goodness, what am I doing all this for? Like, why am I doing this? And it's only because I'm absolutely exhausted. And I wake up the next day after having a full night's sleep and I feel so much better. So I think sometimes, with all the will in the world, we can try and be as self-aware or as self-compassionate as we can be. But if we're tired, if we're, you know,
Hungry?
it's the low FSH time of the month. If we're hungry,
Yeah.
it can all. So we need to have self-compassion with the fact that we're not self-compassionate sometimes as well. And sometimes I'll go retrospective. I'll go, Jesus, I wish I hadn't been so hard on myself with that. But yeah, it's about that building that awareness muscle, having that kind of ability to kind of just stop and go, actually it's all right. And look, even like one of my kids last night came to me, he's all miserable about something and he's just exhausted. And I just said to him, look, do you know what? How about you go to bed, have a sleep. When I come back from Belfast tomorrow, we'll have a little chat, we're both fresh. And I promise you things will feel so much better. And I know
Yeah,
we'll
take
have
a
a
pause.
much more decent conversation. Yeah, I need to take a pause sometimes and go, maybe I'm not going to sort this out right now. But when I've had a good night's sleep, or I've had a cup of coffee, or I've had a decent meal, or I've had a chat with a friend about this or a partner, I'll feel a little bit in a better headspace to sort this out.
Yeah, totally agree. It's great advice, Laura. There's no more questions. I think we've covered the questions in the Q&A and the chat. Does anyone want to come online, or if anyone has a question, just put it in the Q&A there. If anyone wants to come online and ask a question, that'd be great. And the name of the book, someone just did ask the name of that book. It's Atomic Habits by James Clear, is the name of that book. Yeah. Have you any questions, Anne?
No, I suppose if we can give some recommendations to people afterwards, Brian, like we did previously, just around, I suppose, from a nutrition perspective, um, just even where people could go, let's just say they have those kind of questions for themselves, where maybe the starting point is on getting going on that, and we have atomic habits listed. It's really great if people can kind of take away, something. I think there's a great takeaway from today that you have to start somewhere, and small
Yeah.
atomic habits are important.
Yeah, and I think Brian and I have done a couple of podcasts together, and we've kind of talked about a lot of this stuff on both of those podcasts. So he was on mine, and I was on his. So we can send you the links to those podcasts too, and then I can
Yeah.
look back on my podcast catalog and see where have I spoken to, say, dietitians about good nutrition, physiotherapists about how to start working out if you need that. I can send all of those links over, and you can share them with people who may have time, over the next number of weeks to kind of listen to them when they're moseying around the house or making their way into work or something like that. They can be just good to have in the background. You'd be surprised how many tips you can get from just kind of listening to people
Mhm.
passively.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That would be
Podcast is
great, Laura.
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll send the link as well to me Breaking Bad Habits course as well. It's free access to that course as well, and I think I shared it last time too. there's just a question there as well. Do you think it's worth being assessed for ADHD if you think you have it? Any thoughts on that, Laura?
I think that if it's having an effect on your life and you feel that a diagnosis would be beneficial for you to better understand yourself, yes. If it's a case that you want a diagnosis because you want to get medication for it, definitely, because you won't get medication without a diagnosis. But there are other ways that you can, like you could go online and kind of do a self-assessment through the DIVA test, DIVA. It's not like absolute, it's not an absolute diagnosis, but it'll give you a kind of an inkling. That's how I had my inkling, before I
Yeah.
went and got formally diagnosed. But yeah, look, if it's going to make a difference to you and you just want that kind of sign sealed thing, you want to maybe try medication, or you want to be linked in with a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist or a psychologist, absolutely go that route. Otherwise, there are tools that you can use that don't necessarily need, a formal diagnosis. Even if you just have some traits of it, they can kind of help you organize yourself that bit better,
Yeah, because it is that idea. It's on a spectrum. Like I'd have many traits of
Mm.
ADHD, but I wouldn't be diagnosed with ADHD. So there's so much of a spectrum. We're all on these spectrums in some form or another. That's why we call them spectrums, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Yeah. So I think we're up on time, Laura. This was an absolute
Okay,
pleasure as always. Always great catching
absolutely.
up. Thanks for coming in.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
And thanks, Anne
Thanks
and
very
Mary,
much,
and
everyone.
Skillnet, and
Thank you.
everybody that joined.
Okay, thanks a million. Bye.
Bye.